Is Donald Trump knowingly acting as an agent of the Russian government, or is he just such a stooge that it only looks that way by accident? We are running out of other explanations, and we need an explanation now about an investment banker named Carter Page. He did not come up in this week's debate. Too much time was wasted because of the defective automatic sniffling microphone they gave the Republican nominee. But Carter Page should have come up. And we need him explained by you, Trump, because Carter Page is one of your guys, because Yahoo News is reporting that U.S. intelligence agents are sifting through reports that Page has met with a top aide to the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin in Moscow, who is Putin's deputy chief for internal policy and who is believed to be responsible for the information collected by the Russian intelligence agencies about the U.S. presidential vote. Translation: your guy reportedly met with the Russian guy spying on our election in Moscow. This is a problem, Trump. This is your problem. And before you say your people have resolved this because Kellyanne Conway said he's not part of our national security or foreign policy briefings that we do now at all, certainly not since I have become campaign manager. If he's doing that, he's certainly not doing it with the permission or knowledge of the campaign and activities that you described. Or because another guy said that relative to the campaign, Carter Page, quote, has no role. We are not aware of his activities, past or present. What your toadies just said about Page, Trump, is different from what a different toady said about Page last month when she called him your informal advisor. And it is also different than what Carter Page now tells a columnist from the Washington Post, that he is taking a leave of absence from his work with the Trump campaign due to the controversy, and that his travels to Russia this past July, again quoting, Page said he made it clear that he was acting in his personal capacity and not as a member of the Trump campaign. So now all four of these quotes are different from what you said, Trump, in March. The Washington Post asked you for the names of your foreign policy team, and the second guy you named was Carter Page, who our spies think met with Russian operatives in an attempt to undermine U.S. policy, who is on your foreign policy team or isn't on your foreign policy team or is an informal advisor or is acting without the campaign's knowledge, but he has to take a leave of absence from the foreign policy team he's not on. We all already know, Trump, about the day you encouraged the Russians during a live news conference to hack Hillary Clinton's emails, to commit a kind of electronic age international version of Watergate that would have benefited you. And we know how you tried to worm your way out of that by calling it sarcasm. And we already know about our government's reported belief that the Russians have already hacked into the Democratic computers, a conclusion you mocked during the debate, suggesting the real culprit might be a 400-pound guy sitting on a bed. And we already know about the day you looked like a complete moron when you said Putin, a dictator, was a greater leader than President Obama because Putin, who is a dictator, had higher approval ratings because you're too stupid to realize that the approval ratings in Russia for the Russian dictator may not exactly be legit. And we already know about your second campaign manager, this slimy Manafort guy, and the strings that connect him to Putin and a pro-Russian political party in Ukraine. But we need to know about this Carter Page and why his name was the second one on your lips when you were asked for your foreign policy advisors. Because, Trump, you probably won't understand any of this. But Carter Page may have also done something even worse than allegedly meeting with the Russian in charge of spying on our presidential election. Yahoo News also reported the government is investigating whether your man Carter Page also met with somebody in the Russian hierarchy who talked about possibly lifting our economic sanctions against the Russians if you become president. That talk which might itself violate federal law. Carter Page says of all this, quote, all of these accusations are just complete garbage, which would be easier to believe, Trump, if your campaign had not put out 4 separate statements about who he is and what he is doing for you. You have to explain this buccaneer now, Trump, because if you don't explain the continuing embrace you have of a murderous regime, of a malevolent country like Russia, you will face far bigger questions than just who is Carter Page. Those questions are simply these. Trump, do you believe our elections are sacrosanct and must not under any circumstances be influenced by any other government? Trump, do you already have a deal in place to reward a country that may have already hacked the political party of your opponent in this election? Trump, are you loyal to the concept of democracy? Trump, are you loyal to the United States of America? That's the close here. I'm Keith Olbermann. Watch this space.